On to college football, week 5. I'm Matt Hicks, the FF educator, here with John Lobb, the gridiron scholar, back for another round of waiver picks. John, we have been hot coming off a big week 4 featuring Kile Mullins, 29.1 fantasy points. We talked about emptying the bank. I hope you did, because you're not getting them this week. That is for sure. We had Keyshawn Johnson with a nice week. Johnson was on our waiver picks episode and John's sleeper article over at patreon.com/rookiebigboard. Roshul Fajan and Malik Murphy were also featured in that article. And John, on last week's waiver picks, I talked about Eli Stowers out of Vanderbilt. Now, 12.7 fantasy points. That might not look as flashy as a Kile Mullins 29.1, but out of the tight end position, I'm taking that all day. So we had a real nice week 4, but we're not focused on last week, John. We're focused on getting our viewers more wins. So before we get into Emmett Brown, our first waiver wire target, just want to let folks know, if you drop a comment, ask us about those starting, start sit questions. If you got a trade you're looking for, any help, any advice, a waiver wire target we don't talk about, we want to chop it up. We want to help you out. So feel free to drop that in the comments. But John, with that being said, Emmett Brown, quarterback, San Jose State, let's get into it.
Matt, I stayed up way too late Friday night. I could not turn the TV off. That Washington State San Jose game was unbelievable, my friend. And it had so much fantasy goodness. That San Jose State offense, we talked about Nick Nash in episode 1, and you reach a point when you're watching the games, you realize the quarterback getting him the ball is pretty good. So I did more research this last weekend. He's a former walk-on, kind of like Baker Mayfield. I'm not saying he's Baker Mayfield, but if you know the background of Baker Mayfield, the same thing. He walked on at Texas Tech. He ends up transferring to Oklahoma, and the rest is history in college football. Here's Emmett Brown. I think he sat for 3 years at Washington State, learned the system. They brought in Cameron Ward. He ends up going to the Spartans this year. Matt, he's been silly good. I don't think people realize he is CFF quarterback number 7 overall, quarterback 8 overall. Here's his numbers in his 4 starts, Matt. 30, 26, 41, 48 fantasy points. Now, I don't think he's going to go out there and get a third week of 40. I mean, if he does, I'm very happy. But I don't think he'll do it. He is a dual threat quarterback. If you love Nick Nash, you've got to like Emmett Brown, everyone. They play in the Mountain West. You need a quarterback. You could do much worse than Emmett Brown. Now, remember, he has a bye this week. So if you're desperate for a start, you're picking him up for 2, 3, 4 weeks down the road. But I like Emmett Brown a lot.
Yeah, we're big San Jose State fans this season, man. We're going to have to get a couple sweatshirts to be rocking here once we get into the season. All right, let's go. I'm going back to the tight end. Well, I don't know why, but I'm making this my thing this season, John. We've hit on the tight end pick the last 2 weeks. So let's go back to it. Tanner Kozol from Ball State, rostered in 35% of the leagues. All right, so not available in every league, but this man should be rostered in 100% of leagues. Looking at his first 3 games, he's got at least 7 targets in all 3 games. And he's got up to 11 targets. I think it was 7, 9, and 11 over the course of his 3 games. And that includes against Miami. Ball State played Miami of Florida. All right. So they didn't score any touchdowns, but Kozol had 7 targets in that game. And he has scored in every other game this season. So against Central Michigan, against Missouri State, he's got a touchdown. Now, Ball State up next here, James Madison, Western Michigan, Kent State. You have a high floor at the tight end position, and you have somebody who's going to be scoring. I am all in on this guy. I have I don't want to tip my hand too much here. I play in a couple leagues with John. I've got a lot of bids in on Kozol's at a Ball State here. So a top target for me this week.
Hey, I could have used the tight end help last week. I should have picked him up, and I had a little hope for my man RJ Maryland at SMU, but I'm starting to lose all faith right now. So maybe I have to get one of those 2 tight ends if you need a running back this week. Hey, I had a little trepidation about freshmen, especially those freshmen who we do not know. They're not the biggest, the highest ranked. They don't get all the publicity. But Fluff Bothwell, who had a great game against Northwest State, I didn't get to see. He scored 26.3 points. I featured him in the waiver wire. But last Thursday night, South Alabama was on the television against Appalachian State. Matt, I got my eyeballs on this young freshman. He went out. He had another 116 yards rushing, 2 more touchdowns, and another 23.6 fantasy points. And when you do your research on this young man, everyone, the reports are glowing. If you have been reading South Alabama, but I was focused on Joe Lopez news in the offseason, who's the wide receiver. Fluff went under the radar. He's very good. I was impressed. Now, App State isn't as good as we thought. They've kind of fallen off, but I don't care. Freshman with back-to-back 116-yard games, 143 the week before. Matt, go get him. He's a legitimate CFF running back this year.
If you're enjoying this video and our weekly college fantasy football content, you have to head on over to patreon.com/rookiebigboard. There you're going to get John's weekly college fantasy football sleepers article. You'll get a weekly Devy article from me and another exclusive rookie dynasty Devy article of the week on top of my Devy rankings, dynasty rankings, 2025 rookie class rankings, personalized advice in the Rookie Big Board Discord, and so much more for just $5 a month. The link will be in the video description. I encourage you to join us over on patreon.com/rookiebigboard. Can't ignore it anymore, John. I cannot ignore Blake Horvath. I wanted to. The quarterback at a Navy, I don't like leaning into the service academies. It makes me nervous, but I can't ignore it anymore because Horvath put up 67 fantasy points against Memphis this week. Absolutely ridiculous. So here's the key to me. If I'm going to lean into a service academy player, right? What am I looking for? I'm looking for a foundation on the ground, right? That's what you're going to get with Horvath. He has 34 carries for 366 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's solid through the air as well. 63% completion, 412 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. Again, for the Navy offense, that's pretty solid. And here's the thing. Here's why I'm going all in on it. I think Memphis is the toughest defense he's going to play all year. Right?
It is.
So I'm not saying that he's going to put up 67 points every week, but if he puts up half of that, you're going to be more than thrilled about it. Next up, a down bad UAB team. You've got Air Force. You've got Charlotte. I mean, the schedule is wide open for them. The back end of the schedule is even easier for Navy. They're set up really nice. And for Horvath to only be rostered in 12% of leagues, it's a travesty, John, where you're going to see a big spike in this quarterback. So we normally don't go double quarterback on these picks, but it was too good to pass up.
I like Horvath also. We wrote him up in the waiver wire column. I was surprised. He's like 6 feet, 195 pounds. So he's got some size, and you could watch highlights of Navy. They're pretty good at posting stuff. He's a legitimate player in that offense. And Matt, what I think is very interesting, he throws a little bit more. Remember, they brought in a new coaching staff, and they did say they were going to throw. You know, I'm a believe it when I see it guy, but they're throwing the ball more at Navy, so you do get a little bonus. You know, give me 150 yards and a touchdown in the air. I'm okay with that if he's getting 100 yards. So I agree with that. That's a great call, Matt. I'm going to go down to TCU. Eric McAllister last year was one of my favorite waiver wire players, but he was at Boise State. And man, he was kicking buttocks last year at Boise State. And then remember, I don't know if you remember, after 9 weeks, he just said, I'm entering the portal. What?
Yes.
Yeah. I lost it for the CFF playoffs. He was averaging 18.6 yards per catch. So he goes to TCU. We know they had a new young quarterback. We knew that there was change, and we knew they had some players at the receiver position like Jack Beck and Savion Williams. But Matt, you know what I did? They are throwing the football like crazy. TCU is number 3 in the country. They can support 3 receivers. And with all these bye weeks coming up and flex position, you can grab Eric McAllister and you can play him if you need him. Matt, in the last 2 weeks, he has 12 targets, 10 receptions, 168 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Matt, Beck is a star. Savion Williams is very good. McAllister's a very close third. I'll say this. Cam Cook, the running back, who I liked a lot, I drafted him. He's not been very effective on the ground. They're throwing the ball more. I like McAllister, and you're probably not going to have to pay a lot because people aren't willing to get 3 receivers, but injuries happen, and they're the number 3 passing team in the country.
All right, there you have it. 5 more picks this week to help you win your fantasy football championships. If you do have those start-sit questions, those trade questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. We want to help you all week long, and make sure you head on over to patreon.com/rookiebigboard. You can check out John's weekly sleeper articles, dynasty rankings, Devy rankings, and so much more. Thanks for checking out this video.